Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of our Let's Talk Arsenal series for what is back by popular demand after the January Windows episode of this. It was very popular. You guys seem to enjoy it, and a lot of you have been asking for it, especially in the Discord server in the lead up to the summer transfer window, to have our tier list videos back. So basically what this is we look at loads of targets for a certain position. In the January window, we did all of our targets because it was only a short window. But for the summer window, what I thought we'd do is look at kind of the targets for just the one position. So we're going to do that today with the striker role. And the striker role is going to take full focus and full kind of attention for it, of it. So let me kind of explain to you what's going to happen and what we're going to talk about and what's going to be seen on the screen. I'm hoping that if I put myself, it's going to have to be this way. The easiest way to show it. So what basically happens is this is really interactive for you guys in the chat box. I want to be hearing your thoughts and feelings throughout the show on these different types of targets that we've got. I'll be going through them one by one. And what we're going to do is we're going to put an argument across for each of the possible striker targets that we have as to which category they would go in. So before we start, let's just say a quick hello to everybody joining us in the chat box. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. There is no Patrick Schick in this list. And I am feeling a bit Schick about that, Tammy, indeed. It's painful. It's painful is what it is. He can't be here. He couldn't make it because he decided to sign a brand new contract with Bayer Leverkusen. So no Patrick Schick on our list today. And Sam, thank you so much for the kind donation. If you could, as Sam says, drop a like on the video. It really does help out the channel and would much appreciate the support as always. Pete, you're right. I haven't put Darwin Nunez on this list, mainly because I kind of forgot about it. There's no Darwin Nunez. You may, if you're watching this on playback, have an argument as to players that I've not put on this list either, which you can leave in the comments section below and where you would have put them into this list. But it seems like Nunez is very close to joining Manchester United, if recent reports are to be believed. But who knows at this stage what's going to happen with him. But he's not on our list. I don't think he's going to happen. He's out of this realm of possibilities. Let's have a look at who we've got on our list. There are some players that have been linked heavily. There are some players that have been linked very minimally, is probably the word to use. And as you can imagine, that's why we've got those players. And while we've got quite a few players on this. No, Bailey does not feature on our list. And if you've seen his finishing from our Arsenal away videos, you'll know exactly the reason why. Let's start off then by telling you how each of the categories works from top to bottom. Do it now is very simple. It is what it says on the tin. He needs to come into this club right this very second. The top tier, the arguable dream signing that we could make this summer. Next up is very goodbye, a player that I would be very, very, very pleased to see join Arsenal, but isn't kind of, my priority in terms of this transfer window. The I'm happy is if they turned up at the club, I'd be pretty happy about that as a signing, but not someone I'd put anywhere near kind of, the very goodbye or the do it now. The next one is the I would steer clear. This is the kind of grey area, what you need in a tier list. The I would steer clear for me is basically like, some people like this player, but for me, it's just a no. It's not he's terrible, wouldn't touch him with a 30-foot barge pole. It's some people like him, but for me, no thank you. And finally, the stay away from here. Now, at TGT, because Arsenal is red, we put red at the top. It's as simple as that. I know that we had comments last time saying, why have you got green at the bottom? Because Arsenal aren't green, mate. That's why. Because Arsenal are red. That's how it works. So do it now at the top. Stay away from here with green down the bottom. Let's go through these possible targets then. We start with Jonathan David. In fact, I can make an excuse for why you may not see some players on this list. It's because they don't fit. And we may have time to add some strikers onto this list that you think deserve to be. No problem. We'll add them onto the list at the end. So if you think we're missing anyone right now, we'll add them on at the end. That's how we're going to do it. We start off, though, with Jonathan David. I'm going to move them into the middle of the screen, and then we'll decide where they're going to go. Jonathan David was linked to Arsenal heavily, of course, in January and in the previous summer window as well. His goal record has been good at the start of the campaign, but certainly trailed off towards the second half of the season. For me, I think there are better targets out there than him I think that there are players that are better suited to Arsenal and would play a single striker system a lot more successfully than David. That said, I would be happy if he came into Arsenal. And so therefore he goes straight into the I'm happy section for me. We're going to get reactions from you guys throughout this. I'm feeling like a lot of you are agreeing with me on this in the I'm happy section. I know that our very own Chris Moss is going to be putting him in the do it now section. We all know that. But for me, he goes in the I'm happy. But Hamster says, I would steer clear. Wow, that is very, very... I think that's harsh. I think David is very good talent. I'm happy, says King. Harvey says, I'm happy. Abby says, steer clear of Jonathan David. I'm happy. Gunny Gooner says, I'm happy. There's quite a fair few people saying I'm happy. Constantine is a big fan, though, and says, very good buy. So there we go. Jonathan David, our first one, going into the I'm happy section. We next go to Paulo Dybala, who looks, for all intents and purposes, like he's probably going to be moving to Inter Milan, most likely. However, you never know. Things can change very quickly. If Arsenal was to move for a player in the summer and it was to be Paulo Dybala, I would be happy with this. I think that he is a player that could offer Arsenal quite a lot in terms of not only experience, but I think he could add in terms of versatility. Can play, striker, second striker, and can play slightly wide as well. I'd be happy, to see Paulo Dybala turn up at Arsenal in the summer. I think in terms of a two-striker system, he, has played that for Juventus, and I know I used that argument for David, so I suppose it's right that they go in the same slot, but I'd be happy to see him. I think he's a very, very good player indeed. In the chat box, again, it's certainly being quite split, seeing a very good buy from Abe there. Positive vibes from Lynn, supposedly in the chat box about this one. Happy indeed with this one. Do it now, says Miles, who's a very, very big fan of Paulo Dybala, it seems. Hamster going for a very good buy as well. Max says happy. Kevin, though, says I would steer clear. Dybala, you can see how kind of varied these responses are. And finally, we've got Moss in the chat box. Nunez, 100 million plus, like I called way too much. Jonathan David, such a great deal. Unsurprisingly, flying the Canadian flag very proudly in the chat box this evening. Marley says, I'm happy with Dybala. Elliot, though, saying very good buy for Dybala. There's a lot of split opinions on this. Some people thinking he's not good enough. Some people happy. Some people saying very good buy. Let's move on to our next one. Tammy Abraham, Roma striker, of course, formerly of Chelsea. I have been very impressed with Tammy Abraham this season. I think he's been one of the best, thinking if not the best striker in Serie A. I'm being really ignorant of who else is there. Vlahovic, of course, but I think Tammy's been better than him, to be honest. I would put Tammy in the very good buy section. The only reason why he's not in do it now for me is the price tag. I think 80 million is a lot of money to pay for Tammy Abraham. However, I think he would be better than what David and Dybala could be for us. Good age, good profile, homegrown as well. Lots of really strong characteristics. I'd go for very good buy in this section. Let's see what you guys are saying. Natty says very good buy. Hamster says I would steer clear. Gives me Lukaku vibes. Sai says steer clear for Tammy. Vlad, though, at the other end of the spectrum, do it now for Tammy Abraham. Yes to Abraham, says David Lincoln. Paul says Tammy Abraham, I'm happy. Chris going for a very good buy on this one. Richard, I wish we could do like an updated poll for this, but it would take far, far too long for me to do the polls every single time we went through each of these. Let's go to Tammy says do it. Avi says Tammy is a do it now. Ticks all the boxes. Anthony says because Tammy is happy. And that's why he goes into that slot as well. Yes, Tatch, I would go for Tammy over Dybala. I think that as someone who's performed consistently, hasn't got the injury issues that Dybala has got as well. In terms of wages, it might be significantly less, but he's going to cost you significantly more in terms of transfer fee. But I think he would be a better investment for us to bring in than Paulo Dybala personally. Look, you can put lol all you like. This is about different views and respecting different people's opinions. If you've got a good explanation as to why you'd rather have Dybala over Tammy, then let us know what it is. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, formerly someone that I have put so much higher up in my estimations than you'll see in today's slot. Everton striker, helped them stay up, of course, with that goal in the Crystal Palace game. Helped to keep them up in the league. Was much higher in my estimations than he has been, but the injury issues have become too big to ignore. I didn't think he was previously that bad with injuries, but my goodness, this season has changed that opinion quite significantly. And when you consider all of the other strikers that we have been linked to, I am going to go as far to say that that Dominic Calvert-Lewin goes in the stay away from here category for me. It was just not, I don't think it's an I would steer clear. I think there is going to be a significant number of people as well that are thinking that this is a stay away as much as possible. And from the looks of things, it certainly is in the chat box. Natty says, stay away from here. Kevin says, stay away from Calvert-Lewin. Stay away to injury prone, says Ganesh. Mohammedim says, DCL, happy with him. Nice to see some variation, though, in the chat box. Paul says, steer clear of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So does Anthony. So does Namdi. So does Pablo. Plenty of you saying steer clear of. I keep on wanting to say Tammy Abraham for some reason. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, steer clear of him. Pretty much everybody, I'd say 90% of the reaction to Dominic Calvert-Lewin is now a stay away or a steer clear of Arsenal. Next on the list is Alexander Izak, a player who was very much on the radar of Arsenal in the January transfer window. In this summer window, the links to him have died away somewhat. That said, his release clause remains at £75 million. If Arsenal were to go and sign him, it would cost them a significant amount of money. Real Sociedad have no reason to sell him. And for that reason, we would still be paying quite a big fee. 5 goals, I think he got in La Liga last season. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat box, people. But it was not a good return. And because of that, he has gone down in terms of who I would look to in the summer transfer window. He's still not in the stay away from here. I wouldn't say I'm happy if he would come in because of the amount of money it would take. I would personally steer clear now of Alexander Izak. This is going to be really good to kind of look back at that video that we did in January, because I think I put Izak in a very, very high slot. It's funny how things change, how opinions change about players. But for me, Izak is a steer clear. But I think some people are going even further than that. Lucas says, I would steer clear. Olu says, steer clear of Izak. Unruly King says, I'm happy Izak is potential to bring in. John says, steer clear. Price is too expensive. Shumoy says, stay away. Harvey's saying, Izak has got the potential, though. Maybe saying that he should be considered as a possible striking option for Arsenal this season. Constantine says stay away for these monies. Marley says stay away. Navarra also saying stay away. Chris says stay away. Dr. Ken says steer clear of Izak as well. And Rancid is just wishing everyone a very good evening. 2 seconds for this sip of water. Is going to be a big talky show, and I need this water to recover the throat already. Stay with me, people. Stay with me. We're not even halfway through yet, and he's struggling. Gabrielle Jesus, the big one, the man, the myth, who is looking like Arsenal's priority this summer. I am so torn on this one because, I like the guy. I think he'd be a good signing. The issue, obviously, is with Gabrielle Jesus is his how clinical he is. Is he clinical enough for Arsenal? If I put him in the do it now section, is it based upon purely because of how strongly linked we are? I'm not sure. The price tag keeps fluctuating. It keeps going from, it was 25 at one stage, it was 30, 40, 50. There's even been rumours of 60 million euros. And for that reason, I am putting him in the very good buy. I'm not putting him in the do it now section for me just yet. I know that a lot of people want to put him in the do it now section, and that's completely fair. I am bordering. I'd nearly put him kind of halfway between the two. I think he would be a very good buy, but I also think he's partly kind of dependent upon what else we do. So Nketiah being renewed, sure, but I think we need a wide forward to come in as well as Gabrielle Jesus. And for that reason, I put him in the very good buy section of this. And in the chat box, I'm seeing some splits between, do it now and the very good buy. Mark says very good buy. Anthony says do it now. And Rudy King says, I'm happy. Jesus could be a 20-goal a season striker, or he could be a flop. He's not constant, and there's better strikers out there. Dr. Ken, though, says Jesus is a do it now. Chris says very good buy. Mark says very nice. That's not one of your options, but I'll accept it. Very nice indeed. Vlad says, very good buy for Gabby. If we get another goal-scoring winner like Gakpo, yeah. Vlad, you and me are, we're just so in sync, mate. You and me are definitely getting it. I think the thing is, right, I wouldn't put him in the do it now is because I think there is kind of, it's dependent upon what else we do. I don't think he's good enough that I'd say just him, and I'm really, really, really sold on us succeeding in that position in the summer. I think there's a lot more to do with it than just the individual, more so than any other. Ivan Toney, Brentford striker, has done very well since, making that step up to the Premier League. Now, I'm going to put it straight out there, I'm putting him in the I would steer clear. Now, this isn't because of what he is from a footballing point of view. I just want to put that out there immediately. This is nothing to do with how good he is as a footballer. This is to do with the social side of this. This is the incidents that we've seen of him talking about Brentford in quite disrespectful terms. When he said F Brentford, yes, he was drunk, yes, he was away. But then there was another incident when he was being asked questions about Brentford and spoke about them in quite damning terms. I would personally steer clear. I don't want this type of attitude at Arsenal. And I think there are a lot better professionals out there that we could sign that are as good, if not better, than Toney. That's just my personal view of the player and his attitudes, and I'm not sure that he fits what Arteta is looking to build. But from a footballing standpoint, if that didn't exist, then I would be more in the I'm happy section. But for me, I just think, no, I'm not happy with that, and I don't think I'd go for that one. Tony said, Mohammed says, Tony, I'm happy. Elliot says, I'm happy with Tony. Brian says, I'm happy because of his Premier League experience. Vlad says, stay away from Tony, would be expensive. And I'm not sure he has 20 goals a season in him. Natty pointing out he's not the type of Arteta player. He says, Ivan the Terrible, stay or steer clear of him. Anton says, most of the other options are not Premier League proven. True. But I think that Premier League proven is always going to be a bit of a bonus. Some players have got that ability that it doesn't matter that they don't have that Premier League experience, that you still would be kind of up there with the top options. Going to, let's have a scroll up and see. I know I'm missing loads of comments because you guys are smashing the chat box, which is great. If you haven't already dropped a video, why would you drop a video? What are you talking about? If you haven't already dropped a like on the video, you'll notice that this becomes a theme, is that my brain just stops working, especially when I have to do enough talking as I do in these shows. But if you haven't already dropped a like on the video, please make sure you do. I'm loving the engagement in the chat today. It's fantastic. Avy says, Tony, stay away. Attitude just puts me off. You're welcome, Chris. I appreciate you in the chat box. I'm glad you're enjoying these shows. Lynn says, would stay away because of his attitude. Pablo says, good point, Tom. So I've changed my mind to a steer clear of this. Fair play. Alpha says, I just dropped a video on the like button. Unbelievable scenes. How's that even possible? We found a way to do it. Let's move on to our next one. A little bit of a wild card here in Amin Aguirre or Guri. I'm really bad with my pronunciations, so apologies for that. But Nice, second striker / wide forward / striker, can play, really across the front line, but can play as a striker if you wanted him to. I think he's a very, very good option for that kind of position. If I do a wide forward thing for this, I think, I would be considering putting him in that tier list as well. But Amin Gouiri, I think he's a very, very underrated and good young player. I would put him into the very good buy section of this. His potential is very, very high. So for me, he goes into the very good buy section. A lot of you may not know who he is, which is fair enough. Go out and do some research. Go and watch some clips of him. But he's done very, very well for Nice this season. If I give you a quick check on his statistics to give you some insight into it now, so I don't have to save you doing a couple of Googling, but he's got 12 goals and 10 assists for Nice this year. 10 goals and 9 assists in 38 league games. He's 22 years of age and he's coming to a point in his contract where he's got 2 years left, rated at £37.8 million according to Transfermarkt. Very highly rated indeed. I'd put him in the very good buy section personally. But a lot of you saying, I've never heard of him, which is fair. It's good. I like seeing this when it happens and people have not heard of him. It's nice, interesting, and learning about these new players. Never heard of him, says Patrick. Stay away. Just for that reason. Just because you've never heard who he is. Don't care about him. Get rid. Not interested at all. Let's go to our next one. Raul De Tomas, Espanyol striker, was linked to Arsenal back in January. He was one of those players that were linked with right at the end of the window. 27 years of age, Spanish international. He's got 2 caps for Spain. This season has scored 17 goals in 34 games and got 3 assists as well. His goal record is very, very good. That said, 27 years of age might put some people off. His price tag might put some people off as well, because he would be worth upwards of 30 to 40 million pounds. Espanyol have no reason to sell him. For me, I'd be putting him into the I'm happy section. Would I? I say I'm happy. Again, it's one of those that I think is dependent, but I think people will underrate this guy. 17 goals in 34 La Liga games for an Espanyol side like this season is a very, very good return. But again, he's one of those players that I think is reliant. If you bring him in, you need to bring him in with someone else. I feel bad now thinking about Izak being there. But the thing is that Izak scored 5 goals in La Liga this season. 5. Raul De Tomas, 17. 17 strikes on goal this season. Was a very, very good return. RDT, as he's also known. But I know that a lot of people are going to disagree with that one. Stay away, says Matthew. Raul says a B team option. Miles says steer clear. Ham says stay away. SJ Chan says stay away. RD team is a meme in Spain. Yes, indeed. Dublin says, I missed the start, Tom, but no Serge on the list. Wow, we haven't done our wide forward tier list yet. Mate. Remember when we get to that wide forward tier list. Steer clear, steer clear, steer clear. Everyone's going for steer clears. They're not agreeing with me on this one, but you're not going to sway me. RDT, plenty of goals this season. In fact, if we go down our list of players that he scored more goals than this season, more goals than Guiri, more goals than Jesus in the Premier League this season, more goals than Dybala, more goals than Jonathan David, more goals than Izak, more goals than Tony in the league. It isn't like he's a bad player. It's not like he's not scoring goals. Is it just because of his name? Is it just because of the club he comes from? Is it because of his age that no one's rating him at this stage? Same amount of goals as Tammy Abraham scored for Roma in Serie A this year from a league perspective. Would be an interesting one. Maybe it's the Lucas Perez 2.0 vibes that people get about him, says Shumoy. Maybe it is, but it'd be an interesting one if it happened. I don't think it will. I don't think it will whatsoever. Let's go to our next one. Alvaro Romeretta. Stay away from here, please. It's very simple. In January, I would have taken him on a loan deal to the end of the season, but now Alvaro Romeretta, just not for me. Just no, stay away. Stay away from here. I feel like this is going to be very quick to get through as we get some people in the chat box going, Hamster, stay away. Chris, stay away. Chris also, other Chris says stay away. No thanks, Morata, says Dan. It's a very simple one from many of you in the chat box saying stay away for Alvaro Morata, and I'm not surprised, to be honest. This is an interesting one. Joao Felix of Atletico Madrid. Very expensive if Arsenal were to go and buy him. I personally am putting him in the I would steer clear section. Now, let me explain why I have put him there. He has played the majority, in fact, most of, if not all of his time, both for his club and country, playing in a 2-striker system. He has been inconsistent. He's had injury problems. He's had some really good months in which he's won Player of the Month for La Liga and done well. But I just don't think he's suited to the player that Arsenal would be looking to go and bring in. There are other strikers on this list that do play in a 2-striker system that I think can work because there's experience of them working there. Just for me, I wouldn't personally go for Joao Felix. I just don't think he's the right player, and the money it would cost to consider to bring him in, you'd be looking at a ridiculous fee. Let's see. I think there may be some split on this one. King says Joao Felix, very good buy. Rance says I'm happy. Gunny says happy. Chris says I'm happy with Felix. Lynn says I wouldn't buy Joao Felix. Dave says, oh yes, please do it now. Joao Felix. David is a big fan of Joao Felix, it seems. But Harvey, I would steer clear. Going down a little bit more on this. Richard says can't play as a sole striker, so stay away. Lucas says he's too soft. Mark though says do it now. Felix is a do it now, says Hamster in the chat box. Gabrielle says happy with this one. I'm loving how split this is. It's really created the discussion, which is great to see as well. Jerry going for a very good buy. It's just interesting to kind of see, the differences on this list between our opinions. Those saying, why aren't certain players on this list? I'm going to try and get them onto the list at the end. We didn't have space on our graphics, so I'm going to try very quickly towards the end of the video to get some more players onto our list. Don't you worry. We'll get there. We'll try and get more on there. Players that you think we've missed out on, make sure you let me know who they are at the end of the video. Let's go to Christopher Nkunku. Now, we get to what I believe is our first do it now. Christopher Nkunku is proven to be one of, if not the best, young to mid-20s kind of attacking players that can play as a single striker, can play as a second striker, can play in a wide position. His versatility is brilliant. If Manchester United get their hands on Christopher Nkunku, I will be fuming, because this kid is something special. Unfortunately, there are no genuine links to Arsenal at this moment in time, but we are looking at possible striker candidates that will move across the window, hence why he's on our list today. And I'm glad to see so many people in the chat box agree on this one. Do it now. Do it now. King says, do it now. SJ, do it now. Abby, do it now. Balage says, do it now. Neil says, do it now. Rancid, do it now. Adian, do it now. I think you can see where this one's gone in terms of the chat box reaction. People are very, very keen to see Christopher Nkunku come to Arsenal. Matt says, if they'd have backed Emery, we'd have had him. I'm not sure. I don't know how realistic it was to get him in that January window from PSG before he moved to Leipzig. I don't know how easy it would have been to get that deal done. It was kind of one of those that was left to the ambiguous, but we certainly missed out on one. Jim, though, says stay away for Christopher Nkunku. Wow, unbelievable. Anyway, we move on to the next one, who again I think falls into the category of maybe do it now, and that is Napoli and Nigeria striker Victor Osimhen, the brilliant forward of pace, of power, of strength, great finisher, good in the air, good movement, has got so much about his game that I like and I admire. I would be putting him into the do it now section. I think he's a player that will offer plenty to Arsenal. I think he's the type of striker that when you look at the kind of the players that are on offer, if you're going to pay big money for a striker, he's the type of player that you pay the big bucks for. Victor Osimhen, for me, is a do it now if they can get him for the £80 million max. You know, if we were talking about upwards of 80 million quid, I think I'd probably move him into the maybe even as low as I'm happy. I think it depends on the fee, but just basically based upon the player himself, which I know doesn't maybe keep consistent with the other picks that we've had, I'm putting him in the do it now section. The difference is, whilst I like Gabrielle Jesus as a player, and why I've rated him still lower than Osimhen, is because I don't think Osimhen is the type of striker that I think relies upon what else we do in the market. If we sign Osimhen, you know, that's great. It's a brilliant buy. And no matter what else we do in the market in terms of a forward position, I think we've landed ourselves a top player. Jesus, I think, is a top player, but I think also there's more risk associated with that signing. And so that's why I'm a little bit different on that one. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat box. Do it now, says Ganesh. They set the league on fire. Hamza, though, says steer clear. Too much money and heavily one-footed. Elliot says do it now, Osimhen. It's a done deal, says Adian. Osimhen says, John says Osimhen, do it now. Lynn says, buy him now and break the bank for him. Tulip says, Osimhen under 80 million, do it now. But if it's 100 million plus, then I don't think so. And I do tend to agree with you, Tulip. AV says, Osimhen, no-brainer, fantastic. Jim, though, just saying unhappy with a Victor Osimhen. Luke saying, steer clear of Victor Osimhen. Still more split than I thought it would be. Anyway, let's go on to the next one, which is going to be Memphis Depay of Barcelona, linked with Arsenal in the last week or so. For me, this is a stay away from here. I think Depay's time in the sun has passed. It went really well at Lyon. He made that switch to Barcelona. It's not gone well. Our former striker Aubameyang has kept him out of the team. Stay away. And from the reaction in the chat box, it's very similar as well. Jerry, Gabriel, Matt, Rancid, all of you guys are certainly agreeing on this one. It's a stay away from here. And lastly, before we start adding some players to this list who you feel should have been on it, Lautaro Martinez, one of my favorite players to get to say his name in these videos. Argentinian Inter Milan striker, has played in a two-striker system, but also played on his own up front for the Argentinian national side. So he's got that feather to his cap. A feather to his cap? Is that the phrase? Feather to his bow? One of those. You know what I mean? I like him a lot. I like him a lot. In terms of his returns this season, let's have just a quick check. So I've got the most recent and up-to-date statistics for Lautaro Martinez. He has got 21 goals in 35 Serie A games this season, 3 assists across all competitions, 25 goals this season, 4 assists, 29 goal contributions across the season. For me, He has gone up in my estimations a hell of a lot. I was thinking of putting him in here in a very good buy, but I think based upon the fact that Spurs could end up, I could see Spurs getting him, and that worries me. And I think that maybe tips it into just in order of getting him away from any other potential suitors. Do it now. Inter Milan would be willing to sell. They need to sell this summer. They need to make back some money. I would be putting him into the do it now section for me. Now, there are some strikers that I know, I'm sure, have noticed that we have not put on our list today. Let's rectify that. We're going to put Darwin Nunez now into this list. So you tell me where Darwin Nunez should feature in our list. Should he be going into the top tier? Should he be going slightly further down? Is the price put you off of Darwin Nunez? Let me know in the chat box. What are we saying? Patrick Schick's not going in this list. Patrick Schick is dead to me. It's as simple as that now. Pablo says, do it now. Neil says, do it now. Very good buy for Darwin Nunez. Joseph, though, would just be happy with Darwin Nunez coming in the summer. Jerry says, very good buy. Brad says, I'm happy. Balaja says, I'm happy. Rancid says, very good buy. It seems that you guys are pretty split on the idea of Darwin Nunez coming into the team next season. I am going to put him in the very good buy section. I think his price and the league that he plays in, there is a lot of risk associated to know whether or not he can make that step up. I know he's scored against some big teams in the Champions League for Benfica, but just for that reason, I am a little hesitant to put him into the do it now section. And I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Let's bring in our next one. I can see you guys are asking for Scamacca. Let's bring in Scamacca to this list today. Where is Scamacca going to go in terms of our list? Very, very accessible striker. I don't think we'll be going for anywhere near the kind of figures that we've been talking about with Osimhen and Darwin Nunez. I think you'd be able to get him for the 40s to the 50s kind of realm from Sassuolo. Italian international striker. Huge striker, quite literally 6'5" odds, very good in the air as well, and would certainly give Arsenal a different kind of element to what they're able to do. I would put him in the I am happy section. I feel like Clive, our good friend Clive from the Arsenal Vision Pod, will be putting him slightly higher up in terms of his rankings. Gunny says happy. Miles says happy. Tulips Levin, do it now, Ski. Yeah, maybe we do Lewandowski in a second. I think he's going to Barcelona, though, so I'm a little bit resistant of that. Jerry says, I'm happy. No Italian will come to Arsenal. Do you not remember Emiliano Viviano, Troy? Do you not remember a certain Vito Manone? I have to disagree. We've had some great Italian footballers in the club. Scamacca, stay well clear, says Lincoln. No. Jashan saying very goodbye. The Sox guy says very goodbye. Sam would just be happy with it, as would John. Very interesting indeed. But Simon saying so overrated. And that finishes off the list of strikers. We're not going to be adding any more. But what we will be doing is we'll be doing another video in maybe a few days, maybe a week's time on a different position. You'll have to let us know in the comment section which position you would like us to do our next tier list for. I really enjoy these videos. I think they're great. Doing the discussions in the chat box, getting your guys' reactions as well to that as well. If you could, Scamacca that like button, I really would appreciate it. Thank you for Alpha for the spontaneous nods towards that. I'm going to definitely steal that if we do a tactical breakdown on him. And also, if you've been watching on playback and you weren't tuning in live, let us know what you would do with all of these strikers in the comment section. If you haven't dropped a like on the video, please do. What I am going to do is I'm going to run a quick poll in the chat box. And what you're going to do is, all I want to know is, are you happy with my rankings? Now, you may not fully agree with them. There might be some that you put in the do it now that I've put in the very good, or, they're just one or two off. But I want to know, are you happy with my rankings of these strikers? Let's get that question into the chat and get some quick responses. Are you happy with how I've ranked these players? If you're not happy, you are fuming with how I've put these players into the different categories, do let me know. If you think that we've got them nearly as to what you think, or nearly spot on, or maybe even spot on, do let me know by voting on that poll in the chat box, and it'll give us some good responses as well. Thanks for much appreciate the kind comment. Really appreciate that. Afsar, yes, instructing those people to smash that like button if you haven't done so already. King, if Tom Canton was on this list, I think he's going into the stay away from here. You've probably seen the videos of myself playing in the Arsenal way. It's a solid stay away from here, King, I'm afraid. But I appreciate the confidence that you're throwing into the chat box, very much so. Yes, Chris, if you voted on the poll, make sure you've clicked the like button. It really does help out the channel. Let's have a quick check. There's over 100 of you have voted already, which is great to see. 80% of you are happy. Wow, that's actually a really good response. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was going to be a lot more people disagreeing. But you're relatively happy with where we've put these players. Let's just run through them one more time. So in the Do It Now section, we've got Christopher Nkunku, Victor Osimhen, and Lautaro Martinez. In a very good bar, we've got Tammy Abraham, Gabrielle Jesus, Amin Gueri, and Darwin Nunez. And the I'm happy, we've got Jonathan, the King David. We've got Paulo Dybala. We've got Raul De Tomas, RDT, Skamaka. Also in the I would steer clear, we've got the Izak, Ivan Toney, and Joao Felix. In the stay away from here's, though, we've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Alvaro Morata, and Memphis Depay. Gal says, I'm fuming. Not many are realistic. It wasn't about what's realistic or what's not. It's just about our personal feelings towards these strikers. There's no politics involved. But thank you ever so much for tuning in. Let me know in the comments what you feel about this and what position rather I should tackle next. Of course, we'll be doing plenty more tactical breakdowns on specific transfer targets. We'll be continuing to do the 8 a.m. shows to keep you up to date with all the latest Arsenal news and doing more fun stuff as well. I've got a really good podcast for you guys lined up on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to that. But it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you guys, as it always is. Drop a like on the video if you haven't done so already. Smash that like button. Smash the subscribe button. Don't smash your computer. It doesn't help anyone. But what it does help is, well, I don't know where I was really going with that sentence. He's waffling. So we're going to wrap up. See you later. And as always, up the arse.